The stars had always been cold and silent. For thousands of years, the great empires of the galaxy looked upon Earth and laughed. They called humans the young ones and the small creatures. They believed that humanity would never become anything important. They were very, very wrong. The year was 2347. Humanity had spread to 12 colony worlds. They had built cities on distant planets. They had learned to travel between stars. But in the eyes of the Dominion, humans were still nothing. The Dominion was a coalition of 5 ancient species. They had ruled the Orion arm of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had crushed every species that tried to stand against them. Admiral J. Park stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the endless darkness of space. He was 52 years old, with gray hair at his temples and scars on his hands from battles long past. He had served Earth's United Fleet for 30 years. He had fought pirates and rebels and alien raiders. But he had never faced anything like what was coming. His ship was called the U.S. Tempest. It was the first of a new class of battleships. It was 2 kilometers long and carried weapons that no alien species had ever seen. The fusion lance arrays could cut through any shield. The gravity well generators could crush enemy ships like paper. And deep in the heart of the Tempest was something called the Storm Protocol. No one talked about the Storm Protocol. It was humanity's darkest secret. Captain Yuna Han walked up beside him. She was his tactical officer and his most trusted friend. She was young, only 35, but her eyes were old. She had seen too much death. "Admiral," she said quietly, "the transmission from Earth has arrived." Jay nodded slowly. He knew what the transmission would say. The Dominion had sent their ultimatum 3 days ago. They demanded that humanity surrender 3 of their colony worlds. They demanded that humans bow down and accept their place as a lesser species. They gave Earth 7 days to answer. The holographic screen flickered to life. The face of Fleet Marshal Sue Kim appeared. She was an old woman with white hair and a face like carved stone. She had led Earth's military for 20 years. She had never lost a war. "Admiral Park," she said, "the Council has made its decision." Jay waited. His crew around him held their breath. "We will not surrender," Sue continued. "We will not give them our worlds. We will not kneel." Jay felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride, hope, and underneath it all, a cold and terrible anger. "The Tempest will go to the Dominion border," Sue said. "You will deliver our response in person. You will show them what humanity has become." "Understood, Marshal," Jay replied. "And if they attack?" Sue's old eyes grew hard. "Then you will teach them a lesson they will never forget." The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Lieutenant Minho Cho, the weapons officer, spoke first. He was a young man with nervous hands but steady aim. "Sir, we are one ship. The Dominion has thousands." "I know," Jay said. "They will kill us." Minho continued. Jay turned to face his crew. There were 60 men and women on the bridge. They all looked at him with fear and trust in their eyes. He was their leader. He would not fail them. "Listen to me," he said. "For 300 years, humanity has been building. We have been learning. We have been preparing. The Dominion thinks we are weak because we are young. They think we are afraid because we are small. They are wrong." He walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each face in turn. This ship was not built for show. It was built for war. Real war. The kind of war that ends empires. The Dominion has never faced an enemy like us. They have never faced humans who refuse to kneel. Chief Engineer Hannah Lim called from her station. She was a small woman with oil-stained hands and brilliant eyes. "Admiral, All systems are at full power. The Tempest is ready. Jay nodded. Then let us go and deliver our message. The Tempest turned toward the Dominion border. Its engines burned bright against the darkness. Inside, the crew prepared for what was to come. Far away, on the Dominion capital world, Overlord Vance sat upon his throne and smiled. He was a tall creature with pale skin and cold eyes. He had ruled the Dominion for 200 years. He had crushed rebellions and conquered empires. He did not fear the humans. He thought they were insects. The humans have not responded to our ultimatum, one of his advisors said. They are sending a single ship to the border. Vance laughed. The sound echoed through his great hall. One ship? They send one ship against the might of the Dominion? It appears to be a new design, the advisor continued. Our spies have little information about it. It does not matter, Vance said. One ship cannot change anything. When their 7 days end, we will burn their worlds to ash. We will teach them what happens to species that do not obey. He dismissed his advisor with a wave of his hand. He did not give the humans another thought. This was his greatest mistake. On the Tempest, Una stood beside Jay as they traveled through hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of light around them. Do you think we can really do this? She asked. Jay was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. When I was young, my grandmother told me a story. She said that long ago, humans lived in caves and feared the darkness. Every night, they huddled together and prayed that the sun would return. But one day, a human discovered fire. And suddenly, the darkness was no longer something to fear. It was something to conquer. He turned to look at Una. We are that fire now. We are the light that will burn away the darkness. The Dominion has ruled through fear for 10,000 years. It is time for them to learn what fear truly means. Una nodded slowly. She did not fully understand what Jay meant, but she trusted him. She had always trusted him. The Tempest continued its journey through the void. Behind them, Earth waited in silence. 12 colony worlds held their breath. 8 billion humans looked up at the stars and wondered if they would survive. They did not know that everything was about to change. They did not know that their admiral was about to shake the foundations of the galaxy. They did not know that the Dominion's 10,000 years of power were about to end. The Tempest was coming, and with it came humanity's answer to the darkness. The galaxy was not ready, but it would learn. One way or another, it would learn. The Tempest dropped out of hyperspace like a knife cutting through silk. Before them floated Horizon Gate, a massive space station that served as the Dominion's forward command post. It was shaped like a great ring 50 kilometers across, with weapons bristling from every surface. Around it waited the Dominion's third fleet. Jay counted the enemy ships. His heart remained steady even as the numbers climbed higher and higher. 100, 200, 300, 400 warships, all pointing their weapons at his single vessel. Admiral, Minho said from his weapons station, I am reading 412 enemy contacts. They are powering weapons. I see them, Jay replied calmly. Una looked at her tactical display with wide eyes. They have us surrounded on all sides. There is no escape route. Jay smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Who said anything about escape? A transmission crackled through the bridge speakers. A face appeared on the main screen. It was a human face, but the eyes were cold and cruel. Admiral Marcus Webb had abandoned Earth 40 years ago. He had betrayed his own species to serve the Dominion. Now he commanded their third fleet. Admiral J. Park, Webb said with a sneer. I remember you. You were just a young captain when I left Earth, still fighting for scraps while I dined with emperors. Jay said nothing. He simply watched and waited. I know why you are here, Webb continued. You came to deliver some brave message, some proud words from a dying species. But I will give you one chance, old friend. Surrender now. Join me. The Dominion rewards those who serve well. You could have power beyond your dreams. The bridge crew looked at their admiral. Would he accept? Would he betray them? Jay stepped forward. His voice was quiet but clear. Humanity does not kneel. Webb's face twisted with anger. Then humanity dies. All ships, open fire. The Third Fleet unleashed everything it had. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams cut across the void. Plasma torpedoes burned like small suns. All of it aimed at the Tempest. The barrage hit. Light filled the view screens. The crew braced for death, but death did not come. The Tempest shields held. The most powerful weapons in the Dominion fleet splashed against them like water against rock. Warning lights flickered, but did not turn red. The ship shook, but did not break. Hana's voice rang out with joy. Shields at 92%. Admiral, their weapons are not strong enough. Jay nodded. Minho, show them what we brought. Minho's hands danced across his controls. Fusion lances charging. Targeting solutions locked. Ready to fire on your command. Fire. The Tempest's fusion lances erupted. They were not beams of light. They were rivers of pure destruction. They cut through space faster than thought. They struck the enemy cruisers before their crews could even scream dot in 60 seconds. 23 Dominion cruisers became clouds of molten metal and scattered atoms. Their shields meant nothing. Their armor meant nothing. The fusion lances cut through everything. On the enemy flagship, Webb stared at his display in disbelief. Impossible. That is impossible. But it was not impossible. It was humanity. All ships full attack. Webb screamed. Swarm them. Crush them with numbers. The Third Fleet surged forward. Ships came from every direction. They fired everything they had. They rammed their vessels against the Tempest shields. They threw themselves at the human ship like insects attacking a flame. The Tempest shields began to fall. 90%. 85%. 80%. Admiral, Hana called out, we cannot take this forever. We need another option. Jay turned to her. Activate the gravity well generators. Hana's face went pale. Sir, we have never used them in combat. We do not know if activate them now. Hana took a deep breath and pressed the controls. Deep within the Tempest, machines that bent the very fabric of space came to life. The effect was instant. A sphere of twisted gravity expanded from the Tempest. Everything caught within it was pulled inward with terrible force. 40 enemy ships were caught in the field. They crumpled like paper. They folded in on themselves. Metal screamed. Hulls collapsed. In seconds, 40 warships became 40 balls of crushed debris. The Third Fleet stopped its advance. For the first time in 10,000 years, Dominion soldiers knew fear. Webb's voice cracked as he spoke. Fall back. All ships, fall back. The Third Fleet broke. Ships fled in every direction. They ran from the Tempest like prey running from a predator. They did not care about orders or honor. They only cared about survival. But Webb's flagship did not run fast enough. Yuna's fingers moved across her console. I have targeting lock on Webb's ship, Admiral. Jay hesitated. Webb was a traitor and a monster. But he was still human. Could Jay kill one of his own kind? He made his choice, Yuna said quietly. He chose to betray us. He chose to serve those who would destroy us. He is not one of us anymore. Jay closed his eyes. He thought of Earth. He thought of the 8 billion people who were counting on him. He thought of the colony worlds that would burn if he failed. Fire, he said. The fusion lances spoke again. Webb's flagship vanished in nuclear fire. There was no escape pod. There was no final transmission. There was only light and heat, and then nothing. The battle was over. The Tempest floated, alone among the wreckage of 400 ships. Debris drifted past the view screens. Small fires burned in the void until their oxygen ran out. Hannah checked their displays with shaking hands. Damage report. Minor hull scoring on the outer armor. All systems operational. Casualties, 0. 0. They had destroyed 400 ships and lost no one. Minho sat back in his chair. His face was wet with tears. He did not remember crying. We did it. We actually did it. But Jay did not celebrate. He stood at the view screen and looked at the destruction they had caused. Thousands of Dominion soldiers had died in this battle. They had families. They had hopes and dreams. And now they were nothing but atoms floating in space. This is only the beginning, he said quietly. Una came to stand beside him. The galaxy will see this. They will see what we can do. Yes, Jay replied. And that is what frightens me. The Tempest's battle recordings were transmitted across every communication channel in the galaxy. Within hours, every species in the Orion Arm had seen what one human ship could do. They watched the Third Fleet die. They watched the mighty Dominion run in fear. On 100 worlds, enslaved species whispered in the darkness. They spoke of the humans who did not kneel. They spoke of the ship that could destroy fleets. They began to hope. On the Dominion capital, Overlord Vance watched the recordings in silence. His pale face grew even paler. His cold eyes filled with something he had not felt in 200 years. Fear. How is this possible? He whispered. How could one ship do this? No one answered him. No one had answers. The humans had shown their power. The galaxy had received their message. And now everything would change. The Tempest turned toward home. Its mission was complete. But the war was just beginning. And somewhere in the depths of space, the Dominion was preparing its response. They would send everything they had. They would burn humanity to ash. Or so they believed. They did not understand what they had awakened. They did not understand that the Tempest was only the first storm in a hurricane that would sweep across the galaxy. The lesson had begun. But it was not yet complete. The Dominion High Council had not known chaos for 10,000 years. They had ruled with absolute power. They had crushed every enemy. They had never faced defeat. Until now, Overlord Vance stood before the other 4 council members. His hands were shaking with rage. Behind him, the battle recordings played on a massive screen. Over and over, they watched the Third Fleet die. Over and over, they watched one human ship destroy 400 of their finest vessels. This is unacceptable, Vance growled. This is impossible. The humans are primitives. They are children playing with toys. How did they build something like this? Councilor Diana Cole stepped forward. She was the youngest member of the council, only 100 years old. She had risen to power through wisdom, not violence. Perhaps, she said carefully, we underestimated them. Vance spun to face her. Underestimated? They are insects. Insects do not destroy fleets, Diana replied calmly. Insects do not have weapons we cannot understand. Perhaps it is time to consider diplomacy. Perhaps we should negotiate before. Negotiate? Vance's voice echoed through the great hall. You want me to negotiate with animals? You are a coward, Cole. You are weak. He turned to the other council members. I am invoking emergency powers. From this moment, I have absolute command of all Dominion forces. We will gather the combined armada. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We will march on Earth, and we will burn it to ash. Diana stepped back. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. This is madness. If one ship could do this, what can 12 do? What if they have more? They do not have more, Vance snapped. Our spies would have told us. This Tempest is their only weapon. Once we destroy it, the humans will break. He pointed at Diana. You are removed from this council. Guards, take her away. Diana did not resist as the guards led her out. But as she passed Vance, she spoke one last time. Pride comes before the fall, Overlord. Remember that when the storms come. Vance ignored her. He turned to his generals and began giving orders. The combined armada would gather at the edge of human space. 6,000 warships. The largest fleet in Dominion history. They would crush humanity once and for all. Far across the galaxy, the Tempest arrived home to a hero's welcome. Ships flew beside it, their crews cheering. Stations broadcast messages of celebration. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky and wept with joy. But Jay did not celebrate. He sat alone in his quarters, staring at his hands. Those hands had given the order to kill thousands. Those hands had started a war that would kill millions more. A knock came at his door. It was Fleet Marshal Sue Kim. She entered slowly, her old bones creaking. She sat across from him and said nothing for a long moment. You did what was necessary, she finally said. Did I? Jay replied. Or did I doom us all? Sue leaned forward. Let me show you something. She activated a holographic display. A star map appeared, centered on the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Within the belt, hidden among billions of rocks, were 12 signals. What am I looking at? Jay asked. The Tempest was never meant to be alone, Sue said. We built 11 more. Jay stared at the display. 11 more Tempest-class battleships. 11 more weapons of unimaginable power. All hidden, all waiting. How? He whispered. We have been building in secret for 30 years, Sue explained. We knew that one day, the Dominion would come for us. We knew that we needed more than words and treaties. We needed the power to fight back. She expanded the display, showing each ship's name and captain. The U.S. Thunder, commanded by Captain Jin Ryu. The U.S. Hurricane, commanded by Captain Barakang. The U.S. Cyclone, commanded by Captain Taishin. The U.S. Typhoon, commanded by Captain Saramoon. The U.S. Monsoon, commanded by Captain Dae-yoon, and 6 more, fully armed and ready for battle. Jay recognized every name. He had trained them all. They were the best officers in the fleet. They were his students, his friends, his family. You knew this would happen, he said. You knew the Dominion would attack. Sue nodded. We hoped they would not. But hope is not a strategy. We prepared for the worst. And now the worst is coming. She stood and looked out the window at the stars. Our intelligence reports say the Dominion is gathering their combined armada. 6,000 ships. They will be here within 2 weeks. 6,000 ships. Even with 12 Tempest-class battleships, those numbers were terrifying. Can we win? Jay asked. Sue turned to face him. Her old eyes burned with fierce determination. We can. We must. Because if we do not, humanity ends. Not just our lives. Our entire species. Every child, every dream, every hope we have ever had. Gone. She placed her hand on his shoulder. You are the finest officer I have ever known, Jay. The captains of the other ships look up to you. They will follow you into the darkness. Lead them well. Jay stood. The weight on his shoulders felt heavy, but he would not bend. Call them home. All of them. It is time to introduce the Tempest fleet to the galaxy. 3 days later, 12 Tempest-class battleships gathered in Earth orbit. They formed a defensive formation around the blue planet like wolves protecting their den. Their captains assembled on the original Tempest for a war council. Jay looked at their faces. Jinru steady and brave. Borakang fierce and proud. Taishin clever and quick. Siramoon passionate and bold. Daeyun calm and wise. And 6 others, each one ready to die for their people. You have all seen the reports, Jay said. The Dominion is coming with everything they have. 6,000 ships. They believe we are weak. They believe one victory was a mistake. They are wrong. He activated the tactical display, showing the Sol system and the approaching enemy fleet. They expect us to run. They expect us to hide. We will do neither. We will meet them here, at the edge of our home. And we will show them what happens when you wake the storm. Captain Sira stepped forward. She was young and fierce, with fire in her eyes. Admiral, with respect, even 12 of our ships against 6,000 is dangerous. Are we sure this is the right strategy? Jay nodded. I understand your concern. But we have advantages they do not. Our weapons are stronger. Our shields are tougher. And we have something else. He paused and looked at each captain in turn. We have something worth fighting for. The Dominion fights for power and pride. We fight for our children, our families, our future. That makes us stronger than any fleet they can send. Captain Jin raised his fist. For Earth. The other captains joined him. For Earth. Eunice stood beside Jay as the captains returned to their ships. Do you really believe we can win? Jay watched the Tempest fleet take formation. 12 ships against an empire. It should have been impossible. But humanity had always done impossible things. I believe in them, he said. I believe in us. And that is enough. The fleet waited. The enemy approached. And across the galaxy, millions of beings watched and wondered who would survive the coming storm. The Dominion thought they knew war. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The galaxy was in chaos. The Dominion had ruled for 10,000 years. Their laws had governed 100 worlds. Their fleets had kept the peace through fear. And now they were gone. Destroyed in a single battle by a species they had called primitive. On worlds across the Orion Arm, slave populations rose up against their masters. Empires that had stood for millennia crumbled in weeks. Species that had forgotten what freedom meant suddenly remembered. And through it all, the galaxy watched Earth with a mixture of hope and terror. Admiral J. Park had not slept since the battle. He stood at his window in Earth Command, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were deciding what to think of humanity. Were they saviors? Were they monsters? Were they the new Dominion? The door opened behind him. Fleet Marshal Su Kim walked in slowly, her old bones protesting every step. You should rest, she said. I cannot, Jay replied. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. 4 million beings, just gone. Because of me. Sue stood beside him. You saved 8 billion. You saved our entire species. The math is simple, is it? Jay turned to face her. We used a weapon that erases people from existence. We did not defeat the Dominion. We annihilated them. How does that make us better than they were? Sue was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. A visitor is here to see you. I think you should meet her. She stepped aside. Through the door came a woman Jay did not expect. Diana Cole, the former Dominion counselor, walked into the room. She moved slowly, carefully, as if expecting to be attacked at any moment. Admiral Park, she said. I come under a flag of truce. Jay studied her. She did not look like a conqueror. She looked tired and afraid and sad. Why are you here? He asked. Diana took a deep breath. I am here to surrender. What remains of the Dominion leadership has sent me to offer our complete submission. We will do whatever you demand. We will give you whatever you want. We only ask that you do not use your weapon again." She lowered her head. Her voice became a whisper. "Please, we have seen what you can do. We do not wish to be erased." Jay looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He laughed. Diana looked up with confusion in her eyes. "You find this amusing?" "No," Jay said. "I find it sad. You think we want to rule you. You think we want to become the new Dominion. You are wrong." He walked to his desk and activated a holographic display. A document appeared, filled with words and laws and promises. "This is called the Accord," he said. "I have been working on it since the battle. Read it." Diana read slowly, her eyes growing wider with each paragraph. When she finished, she looked at Jay with disbelief. "This establishes equality between all species. Free trade. Mutual protection. Diplomatic resolution of conflicts." She shook her head. "You are offering peace? After what we did to you? After we tried to destroy your entire species?" "Yes," Jay said simply. "But why? You have the power to rule everything. No one can stop you." Jay walked to the window again. "Let me tell you something about humans. We have spent our entire history fighting each other. We have had wars that killed millions of our own kind. We have built weapons that could destroy our own world. We have been cruel and stupid and selfish." He turned to face her. "But we have also learned. We have learned that power without wisdom leads to destruction. We have learned that ruling through fear only creates enemies who will one day rise up. We have learned that the only way to build something lasting is to build it together." He stepped forward and looked Diana directly in the eyes. "We built the Tempest fleet to protect our people, not to become the very thing we fought against. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to live in it peacefully, alongside species who treat us with respect." Diana was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I understand. I will take your accord to what remains of our people. I believe they will accept." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Admiral, I must ask. The weapon you used, the Storm Protocol. Will you use it again?" Jay's face grew hard. "Only if someone forces us to. Only if there is no other choice. We did not want to use it at Horizon Gate. We did not want to use it at Sol. But we will never allow our children to be threatened again." Diana nodded slowly. "Then I hope no one is foolish enough to threaten them." She left. Jay watched her go down in the weeks that followed. The Accord spread across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for millennia signed their names beside each other. Trade routes opened. Borders became peaceful. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Orion Arm knew something close to peace. Not everyone agreed with Jay's approach. Some within Earth's government wanted to rule. They said humanity had earned the right to dominate the galaxy. Captain Sarah Moon came to see Jay one evening. Her eyes were hot with frustration. "We have the power," she argued. "We could end all conflict. We could bring true order to the galaxy. Why are we giving that up?" Jay listened patiently. Then he spoke. "Power earned through fear is power built on sand. One day, someone will build a weapon that can counter ours. One day, our enemies will find our weakness. And when that day comes, if we have ruled through terror, we will fall just as the Dominion fell." He stood and placed his hand on her shoulder. "We will be remembered, not for how many we killed, but for the peace we chose when we could have chosen war. That is what matters. That is what will last." Sarah was not fully convinced, but she accepted his words. She returned to her ship and continued to serve with honor. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Jay retired to a quiet colony world with Yuna, who had become his wife. They built a small house near a lake and watched their children grow. Sometimes, late at night, Jay still saw the faces of those who had died. But the nightmares grew less frequent as the years went by. Minho became an instructor at Earth's Naval Academy. He taught young officers that true strength came from wisdom, not weapons. Hannah led the engineering corps that helped rebuild worlds damaged by war. Captain Jin commanded the peacekeeping fleet that patrolled the borders. Captain Bora became an ambassador who negotiated treaties between former enemies. The Tempest fleet was reduced to 6 ships on active duty. The others were placed in reserve, maintained but silent, a reminder to any who might forget the lesson of Seoul. On the 10th anniversary of the battle, Jay received a visitor. A young alien girl, barely taller than his waist, came to his door. She belonged to a species that the Dominion had enslaved for 3,000 years. In her hands, she carried a small sculpture. It was shaped like a human hand, reaching upward toward the stars. "My grandmother told me to give you this," the child said. Her voice was small and shy. "She said humans gave us the stars back. She said we should never forget." Jay knelt down and took the sculpture. His eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," he whispered. "This means more than you know." The child smiled and ran back to her waiting family. Jay watched them go, then looked at the sculpture in his hands. Yuna came to stand beside him. "Are you all right?" Jay nodded slowly. "I think I am. For the first time in a long time, I think I am." He looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were living in peace because of what humanity had done. Not because they had destroyed an armada, but because they had chosen mercy when they could have chosen revenge. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm. But the storm had chosen to bring rain instead of destruction. It had chosen to nurture instead of destroy. And that, more than any weapon or fleet, was humanity's greatest victory. The Tempest fleet still waited in the darkness, ready to defend humanity if the need ever arose again. But Jay hoped that need would never come. He hoped that the peace they had built would last. As he walked back into his home, the sculpture still warm in his hands, he smiled. The storm had passed. The sun was shining. And for the first time in human history, the stars were no longer cold and silent. They were home. The sky above Earth turned dark with enemy ships. They came out of hyperspace like a plague, their vessels blocking out the stars. 6,000 warships of the Dominion Combined Armada, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. They stretched across the void in every direction, their weapons already glowing with power. On the bridge of the Tempest, the crew watched in silence. Minho counted the contacts on his display until the numbers became meaningless. Hannah checked her systems again and again, looking for any weakness. Yuna stood beside Jay, her hand resting on his arm. "There are so many," she whispered. Jay nodded. "Yes, but numbers are not everything." A transmission crackled through the speakers. Overlord Vance's face appeared on the main screen. He was smiling, but his eyes were hollow and cruel. "Humans," he said, "your time has come. I offer you one final chance. Surrender your fleet. Surrender your worlds. Bow before the Dominion, and we will make your deaths quick. Resist, and I will make your extinction last for centuries. I will burn your children in front of your eyes. I will." Jay cut the transmission. He stepped forward and activated the fleet-wide communication channel. His voice would reach every ship in the Tempest fleet, every crew member, every soldier. "You came here expecting to find prey," Jay said slowly, his words carrying across space to the Dominion fleet as well. "You found predators instead. This is your one chance to turn back. Take it." Vance's response came as a wall of weapons fire. The combined armada opened up with everything it had. Missiles and beams and plasma bolts streaked across the void like a deadly rain. All ships, defensive formation. Jay commanded. Shields to maximum. Show them what we are made of. The Battle of Seoul had begun. The Tempest fleet did not run. They did not hide. They met the enemy head-on with fire and fury. Captain Jin's thunder drove straight into the enemy vanguard, its fusion lances carving paths of destruction through the Dominion ships. Captain Bora's hurricane launched swarms of missiles that overwhelmed enemy defenses. Captain Tay's cyclone moved like a dancer, dodging fire and striking where the enemy least expected. But the Dominion had numbers. For every ship the Tempest fleet destroyed, 10 more took its place. They swarmed around the human vessels like ants around a lion. On the Tempest, warning lights began to flash. Shields at 70%, Hana reported. We are taking damage. Keep fighting, Jay ordered. We cannot stop now. The battle raged for hours. The Tempest fleet fought with everything they had. They destroyed hundreds of enemy ships. But it was not enough. Slowly, inevitably, they were pushed back toward Earth. Captain Day's voice came over the communication channel. His monsoon was bleeding fire from a dozen hull breaches. Admiral, we cannot hold much longer. They are too many. Jay looked at his tactical display. He saw his fleet, battered and burning. He saw Earth behind them, blue and beautiful and full of life. He saw the Dominion armada, still vast despite their losses. This was the moment he had been saving for, the moment he had prayed would never come. All ships, he said, activate storm protocol. Silence fell across the fleet. Every captain knew what storm protocol meant. It was humanity's darkest secret, the weapon that could end everything. Admiral, Captain Sierra said hesitantly, once we use it, there is no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. I know, Jay replied, but I would rather the galaxy fear us than watch our children die. Activate storm protocol, now. Deep within each Tempest-class battleship, systems that had never been used came to life. Power cores that burned with the heat of stars began to overload. Energy fields that bent reality itself began to expand. The effect was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. From each of the 12 battleships, a wave of energy spread outward. It was not fire. It was not radiation. It was something worse. It was a field that destabilized matter at the molecular level. Everything caught within it simply came apart. Ships did not explode. They dissolved. Armor did not break. It ceased to exist. The Dominion armada began to vanish. Hundreds of ships disappeared in the first wave. Then thousands. The energy fields expanded, merging together, creating a sphere of annihilation that swept through the enemy fleet like death itself. On his flagship, Overlord Vance watched his armada die. His face went from anger to disbelief to pure terror. No, he whispered. This cannot be. This is not possible. The storm protocol field reached his ship. For one instant, Vance felt himself coming apart atom by atom. Then he felt nothing at all. When the fields dissipated, the Dominion combined armada no longer existed. 6,000 ships. Millions of soldiers. Gone. Not destroyed. Not killed. Simply erased from reality. The Tempest fleet floated alone in a sea of empty space, where the greatest fleet in galactic history had been moments before. Jay slumped in his command chair. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wet with tears he could not control. Damage report, he said quietly. Hana's voice was barely a whisper. All ships operational. Casualties across the fleet, 312. She paused. Enemy casualties, estimated 4 million. 4 million lives. Gone in an instant. Because of his order. Because of the weapons they had built. Yuna knelt beside him. Blood ran down her face from a wound she had not noticed during the battle. Jay, it is over. We won. He looked at her with empty eyes. Did we? Or did we become the very monsters we were fighting? Around them, the crew sat in stunned silence. There was no celebration. There was no cheering. There was only the weight of what they had done. On Earth, people looked up at the sky. They saw the flashes of light. They saw the strange glow of the storm protocol. They did not understand what had happened. But somehow, they knew it was over. Across the galaxy, the Dominion subject worlds received the news. Their masters were gone. The armada that had kept them enslaved was dust. Species that had been conquered for millennia suddenly found themselves free. The recordings of the Battle of Soul spread across every communication network. Every species saw what humanity could do. Every leader understood the message: do not threaten Earth. Do not harm its children. Do not wake the storm. The Tempest fleet turned toward home. Their ships were scarred and burned, but still proud. They had saved their people. They had ended the Dominion's reign of terror. But Jay knew that this was not the end. It was the beginning of something new. Humanity had shown its power. Now, they would have to show what kind of power they would become. Would they rule through fear like the Dominion had? Would they become the new tyrants of the galaxy? Or would they choose a different path? As the Tempest approached Earth, Jay made a promise to himself. He would not let humanity become what they had destroyed. He would find another way. The storm had come. The storm had conquered. But what happened next would determine whether humanity would be remembered as saviors or as monsters. The choice was still to be made.